Welcome to the Tag Talks podcast. Today I'm joined here by my friend, former teammate and tag athlete, Gabe Ferraro. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'm
no.
excited to do this.
No, thank you for joining. Why don't you get us started off with name, position, kind of where you're from, how long you've been training that tag for, and kind of what team you're currently with.
So I'm Gabe Ferraro. I'm a kicker. Um, been training with you since you started. So it's been going on 3 or 4 years now, right?
Yeah,
And currently signed with the Ottawa Redblacks in the CFL.
sweet. And did you say where you're from?
Sorry, from Mississauga,
Got
Ontario.
to give a big shout out to Saga
Big shout out
City.
to Mississauga.
There you go. All right, just to get the ball rolling here, we're gonna go through the quick 6 questions. So, favorite meal?
It's probably not good for an athlete to say, but my mom's homemade lasagna has to be number one.
Hey, no judgments here, buddy. Favorite exercise?
I'd say squatting. I know it's a lot of people don't like that, but squatting has to be my favorite. And over the years, I've been starting to like bench a little more.
A little bit more. All right. Least favorite
The
exercise. Sorry.
bike.
The
The bike.
bike, the
What's the bike
sprints.
that we do?
Yeah.
What is that bike called?
The Airdyne.
The Airdyne bike. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
100% my least favorite.
Yeah. The bike sucks.
Yeah.
If you could play any other sport or another position, what would it be?
Um, I guess that's a double-sided question. I guess another position, a quarterback, 100%. I mean, anyone who plays football, who wouldn't want to be a quarterback? I mean, I guess unless you're a middle linebacker,
I was
but
just gonna say
I think
me.
anyone would want to be a quarterback. But another sport, I'd love to play soccer. I grew up playing soccer since I was 4. I grew up watching. Soccer is my first love, so I would say
Yeah.
that would be my other sport.
I kind of expected that answer. In your opinion,
Yeah.
best sports movie of all time?
There's a few, but I think Remember the Titans has to be number one.
Remember the
Uh,
Titans.
yeah, has to be number one. I like Friday Night Lights. Space Jam's a great movie, but Remember the Titans has to be number one.
Takes the cake. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you can share multiples if you want, but favorite podcasts, books, or blogs?
Yeah, podcasts I listen to a lot. So I listen to a whole bunch of comedians. Like obviously starts with Joe Rogan, but all his group of guys, they're like Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, all those guys. Um, so I'm big on like the comedian podcasts and sports podcasts. So any of those sports talk guys, I listen to a bunch of those. My favorite book has to be the one you recommended, Relentless by Tim Grover is his name, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that has to be my favorite book. I just read that, I guess, listened to it a couple months ago, and I think a lot of the lessons in there kind of stuck with me, and I love that book.
Yeah, that's an unreal book. And that's one that I recommend almost to like every athlete that I work with. Like if you want a kick in the ass, that book is that and then some.
Yeah, there's been so many things I've told my mom, my girlfriend. In this book I read, he said this, and this, and they're like, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of those lessons stuck with me. I love that book.
Yeah, and then those guys that don't know, Tim Grover, he was like the Michael Jordan's private coach, Kobe Bryant's private coach, Dwayne Wade's private coach. So he
Yeah,
actually like goes through the book and unpacks, what those guys did that made them different, tells stories about their training. And yeah, like I said, it is a throat punch of a book. Like it just wakes you
yeah,
up and makes you want to light the world on fire and go get some. So definitely if
yeah.
you're
And I
looking.
loved it because he told some stories that really helped you dive into the mind of those kind of guys, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and experiences that you would never know, like how Dwayne Wade called him after Game 3 in the finals and said, "I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on." They flew out and had that meeting in a hotel, and just things like that that you would never know, and just really shows you the mind of those top athletes. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it really is a peek behind the curtain of kind of what it takes to be at that level. And the one thing that I really
Yeah.
liked about the book too is that he talks about the differences between, like, he's just like, when I was training Michael Jordan, it was like, if I just said, hey, let's do this, he didn't ask questions. He would just do it. And it didn't matter what it was.
Mhm.
And he's like, Kobe was the same. He would do it, but he had to ask a million and one questions before. Why are we
Yeah.
doing it this way? Where's my hand position? Where's my feet position? Where are my eyes looking? How does this translate to the game? How can we tweak this? And so it's cool to
Yeah.
just see how like one was at the top of his game and he would just blindly follow, like, hey, man, if you tell me to do it, I'll do it. And the other guy's like, I'm going to dissect every little piece of that. And so I think that's just like individual personality coming through. But it was really cool just to kind of hear the differences between all those guys who are at the top of their game.
Yeah, for sure. And it was cool for me because even growing up, even watching soccer, whatever sport, and seeing the top guys, and you see one guy speaks and says, "Oh, I do this, this, and this." So you think, "Oh, that's what it takes to be successful." And then you hear someone else, and they do something completely different, and they're at the same level. It's like, "Oh, okay." So there's no blueprint that it has to be this or this. That those two top guys, Kobe and Michael Jordan, had different ways of going about it, but still ended up at I guess, a similar level. You can't say the same, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
And I think, yeah, I think with that, it's like, and like one thing that I do, whether it's sports, business, life, whatever, like I just try and study successful people. And like, you're not
Mhm.
necessarily looking for an exact blueprint that you can incorporate into your life or your career, but you're looking for like, what are the commonalities between all these things? So
Yeah,
when you study successful people or successful athletes or whatever, like look for those commonalities and then try and incorporate that into your own individual life and your own individual kind of structure and what works for you. Like you can't just go out and blindly copy what someone else is doing, but like success definitely leaves clues, right? So
yeah, yeah.
find the people that have been the most successful, find what are those commonalities, and then try your best to incorporate that into what's going to work for you.
Yeah, 100%. And that's in the kicking world, that's something I learned, and now I try and teach young kickers is because if you look at, let's say, the 32 NFL kickers and the 9 CFL kickers, no two of them kick the same way. No two of them look the same way when they kick. So that's a lesson that I learned, and I try and teach guys that you can go out and see different coaches and learn different things, because the important thing is to find what are the common things they're all trying to say and what pertains to you. Maybe some doesn't, some does. So yeah, like you said, it is finding those commonalities among all those successful people and seeing how you can implement it your own way to your own success, right?
Yeah, no, that's
Mhm.
awesome, man. So that's a nice, easy segue into, telling us a bit about you. Like, obviously, you just said you're a kicker.
Mhm.
I know you have been around the block. You've been coached by many different kicking coaches. Like, why don't you actually just go through and tell us that kind of story of you starting football to where you're at now?
Yeah, so I have my older brother who started playing when he was in grade 10. The story was we were both soccer players, and at our high school, the football coach went in and said, "Hey, man, we need someone to kick. Like, please just come out and play football." So we went, it took a couple of debating, a couple of fights with my parents, and I went, "Okay, fine, I'll go give it a shot." So he went, and he was really good. So I was still in elementary school at this point. I was like, "Oh, like football's cool. I'd love to do that when I get to high school." So fast forward a couple of years, grade 9 came, and I went out for camp, and initially they put me at cornerback. I wasn't just a kicker in training camp. So we had our first like jamboree. I was the starting corner next to I don't know if we know Josh Stanford, but he actually played in the CFL too, and he went to my high school. So he was like the halfback, and I was the corner. And it was my first week playing football, so he kind of helped me out and showed me the way. That only lasted for about maybe one more week, and from there I transitioned into being a kicker, and I've been there ever since. Fell in love with it.
That's awesome. So why don't you, like, I know your story. Obviously, we've been friends for a long time. And I've known your brother for even longer. Shout out to
Mhm.
Brucey there. Met your older brother Daniel in 2010 when we played Team Ontario together. I know you played Team O. What year was that?
That was in 2011, I believe. That was grade 11 going to grade 12. So
So you
2011 I played. So
2011 you played with Soto.
with Parasoto, yeah.
Newton was on
Yeah, we
that
had
team
a
as
whole
well.
bunch of guys that came to Guelph together. We're all on that same Team Ontario team together.
Yeah,
James Roberts was there.
that's
There's a
two
whole group of
episodes in a
us.
row.
Yeah,
We're giving Roberts a shout out.
there you go.
We're gonna have to get the kid on here one day soon. Okay.
Iceman, James Roberts.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so my journey, I tell people, I think the reason I really fell in love with football was the first 3 seasons that I played, I only lost 2 games and I won all 3 championships. So I kind of just fell in love with that winning, and it almost felt like easy, I guess. In grade 9, we only lost 1 game because our quarterback wasn't allowed to play that game. Then we won every other game and won the what's called ROPSA, the Region Appeal. And then, still played soccer, went back grade 10. We had an undefeated season, won again. And then that summer, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and play summer football. And I joined the Mississauga Warriors, and that was our junior varsity team. We had just a loaded team that year, a whole bunch of guys that played university ball. And same thing, we lost 1 game by 1 point and ended up going on to winning that championship. So I was like, 3 years in, 3 championships, this is easy. I'm going to keep winning, keep playing, keep winning. And that's, I think, accumulation over those 3 years when I really fell in love with it. And so yeah, from there on, the following summer, 2 summers, I played for Burlington Stampeders and played Team Ontario. Finally, after my 5th year, I had the chance of going and playing for Team Canada down in Texas. That was a pretty awesome experience. I was there with Parasoto as well. And then ended up coming to Guelph, and I guess, yeah, I had my 5 years there, played with you there, and yeah.
So talk about like making the decision to come to Guelph, because obviously, your brother was there. He was a few years ahead of
Yeah.
you, so he had a couple years of eligibility left. Like, talk about making that decision to go to a school where you weren't just going to be able to walk in and be number one, and there was like this perceived notion that you were going to have to go and kind of live in your brother's shadows. Like, why don't you
Yeah,
talk a
so
bit about that decision making process, and like, what your mentality was going into that.
sure. So coming out of high school, I got recruited by a lot of schools across Canada, and um, I think out of the 11 OUA teams, I think 10 of them I ended up getting recruited by. So I went through the process. I remember when Guelph first started recruiting me, they said, "Do you want us to treat you as your brother's here, or do you want us to treat you as if you're just any other recruit?" And I said, no, treat me like my brother never went there. I don't know who he is. Treat me like I'm anyone else. And they did. So they brought me in on recruiting trips, showed me the city and the school, the team, and all that. And so over the process, I narrowed it down to 4 teams. So it was between Western, Guelph, McMaster, and Laurier. So at the time, my brother was at Guelph, but Western, Mac, and Laurier also had great kickers. At Mac was Tyler Capina, at Western was Zach Medeiros, and Ronnie Pfeffer was at Laurier. So those are 4 guys that are all CFL level kickers, and I kind of figured, I'm whichever one I choose, I'm going to have to sit at least that 1 year behind one of those guys. They're all stars. They're all Canadian level guys. So then it ended up coming down to Western or Guelph, and then what really made me make my decision was I was actually leaning more towards Western. So then when I sat down and looked at everything, what I ended up doing was taking football out of the equation. I said, okay, so I think these are all great football programs. They're all amazing opportunities for me. I still got to go to school there. I got to live in this city. I'm going to have to work in this city if I'm there in the summer. So let me factor that in, because football, I think I'll have a great experience wherever I go. So I kind of took that out of the equation. And then when I sat down and kind of looked at all the other stuff, I was like, man, I really like Guelph. When I went through the city, it felt like home, not just the school. The campus was great. The program I was going to be getting into in business was awesome. A whole bunch of guys that I had known and played with were already committed to Guelph, like James and Nick and Luke. And there's a whole bunch of guys that were at Guelph. So I guess all of those put together, besides the football thing, made me lean towards Guelph. And that's kind of how I came to my decision to go to Guelph. So I guess it was easier for me to spend that 1 year behind my brother than someone who, yes, I know them, but they're not my brother. So I knew that he would, even though him playing over me and competing with me, also had my best interest in mind to help me get better in the same process. And I think it worked out well. That was a very fun year of football, getting to play with my brother. That was the one and only chance I got, and it was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome, and I think it's cool how, when you said to finally narrow down your decision, you took football out of the equation. Like, through coaching summer football for, I don't know, what feels like a long time for me, and I think it's been like 7 or 8 years that I've been doing that, and running the athletes garage and working with athletes. Like, I've kind of gone through the recruiting process with a lot of kids, and they've asked me for advice, and one of the things that I've always said is, don't turn anything down right away. Like, explore all options, because you never know, right? There might be one thing about a program that maybe you weren't considering before. There might be one thing that when you listen to them talk, or you go and check their school out, that might pique your interest. So like I've always said, never kind of turn anything down, but B, like, treat it like on the first day of training camp, you break your leg in 5 places and you can literally never play football again. Like, that would be the most horrific leg break of all time. But think like you can never play football again. Like, are you still happy with your decision? And so it's cool to hear you say that's how you made your decision. Cause for me, that was the same way. Like, I didn't get contacted by 10 of the 11 schools in the OUA like you over there, but that's how I made my decision. It was like, if football doesn't work out, like, what school is going to make me the happiest? And that's how I came to choose Guelph as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, no, and looking back on happy I did do that too, just to add a little more, because I remember now, if we fast forward a bit, in my year I got to go to the East-West Bowl. And at the East-West Bowl is where you meet all the guys from all the other schools. And it was funny to talk to them and see how all of us, when we talk about our experience back at our own school, we all had similar experiences, like similar things to complain about, similar things we love, similar things that we went through. And it was like, oh, so you know what? Like, yeah, maybe this school might be different than this, but at the end, we're all getting a similar experience, same kind of experience, and you're going to love it wherever you go. The brotherhood you build with guys that you play with is like none other, no matter if you're wearing purple, green, yellow, red, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm happy I did that when choosing my school.
Yeah, like that's one thing that I used to always think when we were playing is like, yeah, like that, oh, these guys that play for other teams, like, you're like, oh, I hate them. But like, you don't actually, because you just know, like, dude, this guy's the exact same as me. Just a dude who's playing football, going to school, training, having some fun every once in a while. Like this guy is the exact same as me. He just wears different colors. You know what I mean? So like, it's funny, like that competitive side of you is like, man, hate these guys, hate them. But it's like, no, I don't. I bet you if I actually got to hang out with them, we'd hit it off, because like these guys are the exact same as we are.
It's true. It's funny. If I had a nickel every time I heard someone say, you know, I thought you guys at Guelph were all like entitled assholes that just got stuff for free, and you guys are actually really cool guys. Yeah, we're all the same.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you know, I was thinking the exact same thing about you. So,
yeah, exactly.
No, it is funny. At the end of the day, man, like everyone that's playing football, university football in Canada, like we're pretty much all the same, right? Like none of us are, or most of us aren't gonna make it to the pro level. We're not playing in front of 60,000 people every weekend like they are in the States. Like we're just a bunch of dudes that love the game and are just willing to kind of do whatever to play it as long as we can, right? Like university football, the schedule you go through, it's no joke. And if you don't really love it, you won't last. And we saw that a lot at our time at Guelph. Like I think about how many recruiting classes came in with 40 or 50 kids. And it's like, man, by January, after that first season, that class of 45 is down to 30, 35. You've already lost like 10 right off the get-go. And then by the camp the next year, it's always day two. It's always day two that all those kids quit, man. Like that was my favorite thing is every incoming class, every time we had a new class of kids come in, I'd just look through the class and I'd look at every kid and I'd be like, okay, you're going to quit in January. You're going to quit day 2 of training camp next year. You're going to be here for 5 years. You're going to be here for 5 years. Like you can, man, you know right away.
You can see it. Once you've been around for a while, you can see it.
And like near my later years, like, you know, when I identified, oh, you're a kid that's gone in January, it's like, you know what, like I don't dislike you or whatever, but I'm not going to spend a lot of my time with you as like an older guy on the team. But when I saw a kid that was like a rookie and you're like, oh, you're going to be here for 5 years, like you can just tell they're just that kind of mentality, that kind of player. It's like, all right, let's go over there. Let's make sure this kid feels welcome. Let's work with him through this stuff. And it sounds kind of cutthroat when you say it, but it's like, man,
that's unfortunately that's sports though.
Like as a vet on the team, you got to invest your time and energy on the kids that are going to help, you know, build this program long term. And a kid that's going to quit after one season or a season and a half, like, I'm sorry, buddy, but you're not helping this program grow. You're not helping us win games. You're not helping us compete on a national level. So it's like, you know, if you need help,
it's nothing personal to those kids or anything. Just it's not cut out for everyone.
Yeah,
you know, I think a lot of kids coming out of high school don't understand the commitment and you know how much people put in and how much they love for this game. Some of them come in because it's fun or they liked playing in high school or the jerseys are nice. You know, like they're not there for the right reason. It's nothing personal to those kids, but you're right. You got to put your time and effort into the people who are going to build the program, be there for 5 years, and really give a shit, for lack of better terms.
Yeah, well, and just help us compete, right? Like I think we had I think the reason or one of the reasons that we were pretty successful during our time at Guelph was just because like that was the culture we had, right? Like everyone there we wanted to win. Showing up and working hard and doing all that stuff was not good enough for the vast majority of our team. It was like these guys we wanted to win, and if you weren't there to win, then like we didn't really care about you too much. Like, and like you said, it sounds bad, but like when you have
that's what it takes. I think if you talk to the guys, like we said, for most successful programs across the country, they'll probably all tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it takes.
Yeah. So with your 5 years at Guelph, do you have any memorable moments, things that stick out for you?
Yeah, I think obviously that second year winning the Yates Cup was pretty special. Um, all the games we won, and I'm more of a team person. I did have the opportunity to be an All-Canadian twice, and I broke a record in my fourth year. But my best memories are, winning a homecoming game, winning the Yates Cup. Those were when we had the most fun as a team. Those bus rides home from a win after an away game, those are the best moments and my best memories. But if I had to pick one, obviously it'd be winning the Yates Cup. That was amazing.
Yeah, and I think for most people that will be the best memory. That one was
For sure.
like there's just a lot of work that went into it. And yeah, you were in your second year, but because of
Yeah.
your brother being on the team, you got to kind of see even before you got there the work that was kind of being put in for that. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And that was if I'm not mistaken, the team's 38th Cup in 4 years that they've
Yeah.
been to. We went the year before and lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for those older guys, the fourth and fifth year guys, that was a big deal to win that game.
Yeah, man, that was my fourth year, the year we won.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the third one that we had been to. That was the second one that I played in. The first year that we went to the Yates Cup, I was on scout team, so I didn't get to play in that game. But yeah, those were some devastating losses that we had in the first two. And same with what Soto said, like yesterday, is like, man, the hardest part about those losses was seeing it end, right? Seeing it all end for those fifth year guys that had put
every year
their heart and soul into the program, and bringing you along from a bright-eyed rookie when you come in on first day of camp. Like these guys, they took care of you, they brought you along, and they put everything that they had into that program. And then to be in those Yates Cup games or involved in those Yates Cup games and watch it end for them, like that was always the thing that killed me the most, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like when we lost my final game at MAC, when we lost, like it wasn't that upsetting for me. Like it was, but the thing that was always harder on me was watching it end for other people. Like I can handle the stuff on my own, but it's like when you know that other people aren't going to have that opportunity again, guys that you care about that have put so much into the program. That one was always the hardest one for me to handle.
Yeah, exactly. And how many of those guys dedicated their last 8 to 10 years of their life to this game, to this sport, and now they might never get to strap up a helmet again.
Yeah.
Whether it's at Guelph or sometimes they might not be able to do that ever again. And you see the hurt in their eyes, and you feel it for them, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was definitely the toughest thing.
But you know what? At the end of the day, like that's also it's also a great reminder going through those things on why you have to enjoy it, right? Like it is precious and it is time bound. Like there's lots of sports that you can kind of play in men's league when you're older, and hockey or whatever, basketball. There's always avenues for you to play that. Like football is just like that's not really an option. Like there's not really men's tackle football, and like there are some weird leagues out there that do that kind of stuff, but that's not for me. We won't go into that too much right now. I probably wouldn't say too many nice things, but those leagues are a little weird. But yeah, when it's done, it's done, and you got to really enjoy every second of it. And I think going through those kind of experiences is a sobering moment for you when you're a younger athlete, because you're just like, you know what, man, it is ending. Like every practice is one less practice that I'm gonna have, and you have to make the most of it. So that's it. So that was your favorite memory, the Yates Cup. I think most people from our era of Gryphon football would give you the same answer. You mentioned that you had a few personal accolades, multiple time All-Canadian, and you said you set a record. I think it was the record. No, like what was the record that you set when you were at Guelph?
Well, I'm talking for I guess CIS U Sports. I set the record for most field goals in one season. I had 33 in my fourth year, and then that same year the following year, I tied the record, which has now been beaten since. But at the time, I tied the record for most field goals in a career. And then I have a lot of the Guelph records, I guess, for most points, most field goals, most. I think I have most points in a season, the top 2 or 3. I think I was at Guelph at a fortunate time in the sense that in the one season in 8 games we attempted 40 field goals, which that's just unheard of to attempt that many field goals, 5 a game. I think that season I had 3 games where we attempted 7, which is just unbelievable. So I got the reason, not that I don't like talking about that, but that is a great record to have, but it comes with, again, getting those 40 attempts.
Yeah.
So as much of a team award, I would say, as it is, yes, my name is on it because I'm the one kicking the ball, but we needed to attempt those 40 field goals. And that was the coach's decision. That was the offense getting us in position. I can't take all the credit for that.
No, and I think that speaks to your humility as well, right? Like you're not just trying to say, "Oh, look at me, like I'm freaking the best, like look at these records." It's like, no, man, like you understand, like I had the most in a season because I also was granted the opportunity to have the most attempts, right? So I think that's
For
pretty
sure.
that speaks a lot to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but a guy that I played at the same time with from another team, while he was in school, he set the record for most punt yards in a career. So that means you're obviously also punting the most anyone ever has. So, I got fortunate to be on the team that moved the ball enough to kick the field goals rather than the punting is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like field goal records and that kind of stuff, that's also indicative that you probably weren't the team probably wasn't hitting a ton of offensive records or that's why I'm trying my hardest. I'm a defensive guy, so I'm always biased, and we like to get after each other in practice, the D versus the O. So I know that the field goal attempts were always viable ammo for our chirps coming from the defensive side towards the offense.
I know. Trust me, I'm the one guy that's in the middle of that, right? I'm not offense or defense, and I got to play with both you guys. So I feel the animosity in the change room sometimes.
Oh, but it was all in good. It was all in good fun, right?
Fun.
Like it was all to drive us to be better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. So let's talk about this. Let's say you get a time machine, you get to go back and give yourself advice. Like early high school, what kind of stuff are you gonna say to that guy?
Early high school me, I would say enjoy the process, enjoy everything that comes with this. If you were to tell me in grade 9 that I'd be in the position I am now, I'd laugh at you and say, "Yeah, there's no way. I'm a soccer player. What are you talking about?" I just really enjoy every moment, enjoy every practice, every game, every kick. I'm someone who, and maybe this is why I am where I am, but I was always very hard on myself. I always had high expectations for myself. So, a lot of times I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, but I kind of made myself feel bad about certain kicks, certain plays, whatever, because I was so hard and expected so much. That now looking back, I wish I'd kind of enjoyed it a little more and would be able to shrug off some of those bad plays, bad kicks, especially in my younger days. As I got older, I think it would have helped me as I got older.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're preaching to the choir with that in terms of, holding yourself to high expectations and being super hard on yourself. Like that was definitely something that was the case for myself as a player. And that was one thing that coaches always said to me is like, "Man, you're so hard on yourself," and all this stuff. And like you said, you kind of get caught on that double-edged sword. You're like, is this my greatest strength or is this kind of my greatest weakness? So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you manage, or how did you manage, and maybe how have you learned to manage expectations and to walk that fine line between being hard on yourself and holding yourself to a higher standard, but not having that be a detriment?
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of built over time. I mean, I think when we first started working together, when we first sat down, I kind of told you how a worry of mine was that in my football career, I haven't really had many struggles. I've never really had any obstacles to overcome. When I first started kicking, pretty much every team I was on, everyone's like, "Oh, I've never had a kicker before." So automatically I was the best kicker they've seen. And then I played for the Mississauga Warriors, and I was one of, if not the best in the league, and same in Burlington. And so I was always, I never really had that struggle, and I never really had someone tell me, "Come on, what are you doing? That's not good enough." So I almost built it that I had to do that to myself. if I wanted to get better, I had to tell myself it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough. I had to get better. So I do think it was a strength over time. It was something that even when everyone was telling me, you're doing great, you're awesome, you're the best, this, that, I personally didn't think it and I didn't feel it inside. And I always felt like there was more work to be done. I could have gotten better. I could have gotten stronger, whatever. So I think over the years, that's kind of what's always driven me, was that in my own mind, I always felt that it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough. And again, like you said, it's that double-edged sword, because then I've also had those moments where I sit there replaying that one punt that came off the side of my foot, and how could I do that? And we needed that punt, like, rather than just that, it happened and let's move forward. Yeah, I think that's always been my driving force, was that me telling myself that's not enough, that's not good enough, you're better than that. And I think that is a big reason why I am where I am now. But learning to deal with that, I think, again, that's just as you get older, it's you learn that you can't let that get on your mind and stay on your mind, because there are those certain games where you'll have the one and you're thinking about it, and then you have another one that's bad, another one, and then as they pile up, so then now looking back at the game, let's say the 2 days later you're watching the film or whatever, I learned that, okay, I can't let that affect me, because whatever mistake I made, I ended up making the same one twice after that, because I was just harping on it so much, rather than just understanding it happened, letting it go, and moving forward, which I think I have gotten better at that as I've gotten older. And again, it is a reason why I think I am where I am. But like you said, I think calling it a double-edged sword is definitely the best explanation for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for you personally, that's something that me and you have always worked on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Since you've kind of started
Mm-hmm.
working with me, and is that, like, man, your position, like, from a mental perspective, is a challenge. Like, you botch a
Yeah.
kick or botch a punt, you might be sitting on the sidelines by yourself for 5,
Yeah.
10 minutes, and if you don't
Yep.
have
Yep.
the mental fortitude to kind of say, hey, what's done is done. Now it's time to hit that reset button and get myself right mentally so that I can, make the most of my next opportunity. If you don't have those skills, man, it's a slippery slope for kickers,
It is,
right?
for
And
sure.
and that's
For
something that I
sure.
think we've always worked on. And I can remember a conversation. It was last offseason. We were out at the field and you were kicking and you kept going left, 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 and you were getting so pissed. And it's like, dude, right now you're like 3 months or 2 months out from a season.
Yeah.
Like, treat every kick and every opportunity as a time to practice that skill of resetting, right? Like, if you're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
left, 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 the reason why is because you went left once and now that's all you're thinking about. You're just,
That's all I'm thinking
every
about.
time
Yep.
you're looking at the uprights when you're setting up, you're thinking, oh fuck, I just went left. All right. And
Yeah.
you've entered that thought into your mind. And that's what I was trying to get across to you last off season, was like, every time you line up again is a new opportunity to practice that skill of how am I going to go about things mentally when I make mistakes.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And like
okay.
you said, especially in my position, in a game, you might get 8 kicks the entire game. You don't get 40, 50 plays like everyone else.
Yeah.
But to let one kick roll in to affect the other one, that's could be half your game for all
Yeah.
you know.
Literally.
Yeah, that is a very important skill in my position. It's something I've definitely had to learn and work on. That's not something you just know and then that's it. It's something you have to work on, and especially the mental side of the game is you got to practice it as much as the physical, as much as you work out, as much as you train, as much as I kick. The mental practice is just as important.
Hell yeah. And that's what I
Yeah.
think a lot of, like, to kind of backtrack to where we kind of started this conversation at, is like, I think that's a huge thing that stuck out from the book Relentless that we're talking about, is just
Mm-hmm.
like the mental piece, and how you have to be right between the ears to be successful as an athlete.
Yeah.
So going back to high school, that's kind of, you would tell yourself that you think you should enjoy the process a little bit more, and
Yeah.
that let's say first year you're going into your first training camp university, what kind of advice would you give to yourself then?
Going into my first training camp in university, I think at that time I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
That to enjoy every moment, enjoy every practice, enjoy being out there, enjoy the fact that you get to kick, you get to put this helmet on, you get to be on the team. Um, I would say that would be my advice there. going into when I was actually in school. You know that shirt that Lamar Jackson wore all season, the nobody cares, work harder. I think that would be my advice for a younger me, that because like I just said, I never really had that that coach or that person telling me it's not good enough, or even to see that it's not good enough. So I had to do it to myself, but then at the same time, there were certain things where I would get caught up in only worrying about the kicking. And then I wasn't working out. I wasn't training maybe as hard as I could be training, because I was just focused on the kicking side of it, not understanding that they all come together and they're all important.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my two things: is really just enjoy everything, enjoy the process, enjoy getting to go into the weight room, enjoy getting to lift weights with the guys on the team. There were certain days I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to work out because I was like, I'm a kicker. Why do I need to do that? But now all these years later, I was like, man, I wish I did. I wish I'd worked harder when I was in the weight room. I wish I cared more. And it didn't take till my fourth year to understand that, or my third year to understand that.
Well, it's
So
tough
to a
too,
younger
right?
university me, yeah.
Well, with your position too, it's not like coaches or people in the game were ever really, communicating to you the importance of training. They always just
Mm-hmm.
kind of had that, oh, you're just a kicker mentality. Like, you
Yeah,
know, as long as you can kick balls, we don't really give a shit what you look like or how strong you
yeah,
are, what you can do. And I think that's one thing that when you started taking your training seriously, you noticed a pretty big return on the investment in your kicking game. Like, you
for
noticed
sure.
your kickoff power was a lot better. You noticed your field goal power was there. Like, and so that's one thing is like, yeah, I don't know, don't let other people put you in a box. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
don't tell
yeah,
people like, oh, you don't need to train or do this or do that. You're just
exactly.
a kicker. You're like, well, if you accept that mindset, man, you're just going to limit yourself from so much of what you could possibly achieve. So it's like,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
And, same as like if you're undersized or whatever, right? Like, I remember when I
Mm-hmm.
was getting recruited, a lot of people were like, hey man, we love watching you play. You're a great linebacker, but I just don't think you can play at the next level being 5'10" as a linebacker. And it's just like, I could just let people put me in a box and tell me, oh, I guess I can't play linebacker, I'm too short. Or
Yeah.
I could be like, oh, well, I'll just wait and see. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I'll come and wreak havoc against your offense in 2 years because you thought I was too short. Like, I'm just looking for someone to give me a chance. So
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's kind of what I've experienced now over the, not so much recently, but when I was first getting into my later university years and into the pros, the one, I guess, knock against me, they said, is I didn't have a strong enough leg. So I can just say, I'm a weak kicker, I can't do it. Like, or I could work my ass off in the weight room and fix that,
yeah, and then
and
and so why don't we actually take this opportunity to kind of talk about your pro experience, because you've
sure.
been part of a couple different clubs and you've gone in, and the reason why I just kind of sparked that is because your first year you went in, you were drafted by the Stampeders, you went into
Yep.
camp, and that was one of the things that they talked to you about was yeah, we don't think you have the strongest leg or whatever their wording of
Mm-hmm.
it was. And I remember that was the one thing you texted me when you went back to camp for year two with the Stamps, is they like actually said like, wow, your leg strength has really improved. So talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So,
they did.
you
Yeah,
were
so the
you
first
were
year I went in,
drafted.
I was drafted in the seventh round by the Stampeders. Went out to camp. My first year, I had a great experience. I got to work with Rene Paredes, who's been in the league for, I believe he's going into his 10th season now, and Rob Maver, former Guelph alum, and same thing. I think he's just retired actually, but he played 10 seasons, and they both kind of took me under their wing. They were both awesome. They didn't, shun me or kind of ignore me or anything. They actually taught me what it's like to be a pro and how to come in early and be prepared for practice and be ready to go when practice starts, and what it looks like to be a pro and how to act like a pro, and kind of showed me the things that you wouldn't get in university until you're there, because it's just completely different. Being a job and being an adult and all of that was a lot different. The one thing I noticed when I was there in my first year was that like they didn't have to tell me that my leg wasn't strong enough. I saw it. When me and Renee kicked field goals, it looked fairly similar. When we kicked kickoffs, it didn't. He was putting an extra 10 yards that much higher. I was like, oh wow, okay, that's what it looks like to kick like a pro. And then yeah, when I went back in my second year, it was a similar experience, and we had another kicker there from Mexico, Oscar. So then we had the chance that all four of us trained together, and again, I got to learn a little more from Renee and kind of pick his brain a little bit. um, a lot about the mental side that we were just saying about how does he act on the sideline? How does he get ready for a game? How does he stay focused during a game? How does he get ready for a kick? So all those kind of things I picked up on when I was watching him, and yeah. So from there, I went through my second year of training camp. I performed well, I believe. I think a lot better than the first year. However, they didn't keep me. They stuck with Renee, and then I became a free agent at that point. Do you want me to get into the whole story?
Hells yeah, baby.
Okay, yeah. So then I came home and I vowed to myself that I was going to act like I didn't get cut, that I kept playing. So I kept training. I tried to keep the same kind of schedule. I still got up and acted like I was going to practice. I went and kicked at the field, and I stayed prepared as much as I could in case I did get a call. And every week that passed is kind of like, oh, maybe not, maybe it's not going to happen. And I was obviously watching the league closely and thinking, man, this guy's not playing too good. Maybe I could end up there. Look at that guy. He had a bad game. Maybe they're going to call. And then I did get a call from my agent one night. It was, I believe, a Tuesday night. He called and said, how would you feel about going to Saskatchewan? I was like, sure. When do I leave? I'm in. So their kicker, Brett Lother, got injured. He hurt his groin. So Tuesday night they called. Wednesday morning they flew me out. So I pretty much just all I had time to do was pack a little bag and get on a flight. So that Wednesday morning I flew out. The second I landed, they drove me over to the stadium, signed a contract, pulled me right on the field because we had practice. And I ended up being a little late for practice, but we jumped in. And that was when I got to meet John Ryan, former Seahawks punter. So I was kind of warming up beside him, and I'm like, oh my God, this is John Ryan. And hey, how's it going, man? Whatever. He goes, they're throwing you right in the fire here. I was like, oh, yeah, it's a quick turnaround. He goes, yeah, we got field goal team in 2 minutes. I was like, wait, what? So right away, I just had to do a quick 2-minute warm up, boom, right into field goal team. So he did my kicking, and I did really well. I think the benefit of that whole first week was I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to be nervous. I didn't have time to stress because I was just kind of thrown right into it. And then that first week flew by like it was nothing. I tried to take as much time as I could that week to do things like look around the stadium, get accustomed to where I'm at, so that on game day I'm not looking around like, oh my God, look how big this place is. Look how many people are here. So I tried to kind of do that kind of stuff during the week. And funny enough, my first game was against Calgary. And I got to see Renee and Rob again, and Royce was playing for them, Royce Mechie. So that was a really cool experience. I got to play my first game against the team that drafted me, and I think I did okay. I hit my first field goal. We ended up losing that game, but so then I ended up going on and played 5 games with them. We ended up with a 4-1 record in the 5 games I played. I did fairly well. My last game I got to play with them was in Montreal, so my whole family got to come out, and my girlfriend came out and got to watch me in a game, and that was a pretty amazing experience. And then once Brett was healthy after our bye week after the Montreal game, they kept me around for I think 2 or 3 more weeks on the practice roster, and they're telling me good things, that they really liked me. They liked having me around. They thought I was good in the locker room. I was a hard worker, whatever. And then unfortunately, when the NFL cuts happened, they wanted to sign a receiver. They got cut from the NFL, and of course, first guy to go is going to be the practice roster kicker. So I kind of lost a spot there, but they said that they liked me. They wanted to, they're keeping my number, and if they ever need anything, I'd be the first guy they'd call. So I had a great experience there, and same with Brett and John, same as Renee and Rob. Like they kind of took me under their wing, showed me the way, showed me how they do things. And again, similar to what we were saying earlier in the podcast, how you see 2 guys that are super successful at what they do, and they're completely different in how they do it. But there's those certain principles that I took from them that they do similar, but in their own way, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So that was amazing experience from those guys. Yeah.
In terms of your exposure through your experiences with the Stamps and the Roughriders, like you're kind of exposed to some living legends in the Canadian kicking world, right? With John Ryan, Rob Maver, Renee. And you said, you're looking for those commonalities between them, between those 3 guys who are obviously, at the top of the game in terms of Canadian kicking. Like what were 1 to 3 like of those principles that you kind of extracted and learned from those guys?
Mm-hmm. The number one thing was the love of the craft, the love of what they're doing. I know in the Canadian game, there's guys that do all 3, whereas these guys were all guys that, John Ryan punts, Rob Maver punts, and Renee kicks. And they all, when you walk in, if you're in at 8 a.m., they're probably already there. And I know Renee for one, and John Ryan actually were ones that they were there earlier than everyone to work out first, and they whatever had to go on their day, they had already done their workout. And then speaking for John Ryan, I would see that he would do his workout, kind of do meeting practice, and go back up to the weight room and do another workout. And I know for him, he was saying that because in the NFL, they didn't have like the half days. They weren't done at 2:00 like we are in CFL. So he was used to being there 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. And as a punter, there's not much meetings to have. So what else do you do but work out? So I saw that, but even just the focus they had in the locker room on their craft, and whether it's reading up on things, watching film, making notes. I know Maver, I noticed something that when he opened his locker door that had like all his things in it, he had all these little Post-it notes on there with little notes, just like reminders, like eyes down and, stuff like that. But yeah, the love of their craft and the love of what they do was the main thing I took from it, and how invested they are in it. That was the number one thing. They were always, whether it was watching film, doing that little extra bit to make themselves better, whether it's even the recovery to get in the hot tub, get in the cold tub, stretch, all that kind of stuff. They it wasn't because they had to do it, it's because they wanted to do it. And that was the difference I noticed.
Yeah, like what great exposure for you, right? It's like to see three of the guys that are at the absolute top of their game, and they're leaving no stone unturned already. Like they're all three of those guys are almost a decade into pro sports, right? Like I think all of those guys have been playing for 10 years almost. And to see them still at that point in their careers with all the success that they've had, and they're
still
not
trying to get better.
They're not letting up. And it's like, that's what we're talking about, right? Like success leaves clues. Like there's a reason these guys are successful. It's because they are willing to do those little things, and not just once or twice because they're motivated or they're excited. It's like they do it every single day, consistently, day in, day out, on the days they want to, the days they don't want to, they don't give a shit. Like you said, they're just laser focused on their craft and not robbing themselves of what they're capable of, right? Like that's what it sounds like. It's like these guys know they're talented, and they don't want to like leave any stone unturned. They want to make sure they're getting absolutely every little thing out of themselves. So I think for you,
exactly. And it was cool to see how they're those guys, like Maver's an all-star in the CFL. John Ryan was a Super Bowl champion, an all-star in the NFL, and they're still trying to get better. Like he's 38 years old, still trying to better himself, still trying to be a better punter. Still at practice, he's getting coached. He's working on his steps. He's working on his drop. They weren't content with where they were at. That's amazing. Like that was pretty cool to see that, as we talked about that book, that relentless pursuit of being great, being excellent. They still had that at their older age. And again, now Maver retired. So I saw him in the training camp of his final season. Again, still trying to get better, still trying to improve, not content with where he was at.
That's amazing. Yeah. All right. So now kind of like where are you at? And, like we talked about this a little bit before the episode started, like, you've said a few times, you've never really encountered massive obstacles or challenges throughout your career. Like where are you at right now? Like, is this a challenging time for you? And what are you
for sure,
kind of work through it?
For sure. Now is probably the biggest challenge I've been through in my entire football career. Now I'm trying to make a name for myself. I'm not, walking into a room and automatically I'm the best kicker there. Now I have to prove myself. I have to beat out guys that have been there before, that have been working at it for longer than I have. So I'm still working hard, and I'm still trying to make my way and trying to make a name for myself at this level. I'm trying to earn a job. And again, my goal isn't just to earn a job. My goal is to be better than that, and to hopefully be the best one day. So I'm going to kind of continue on that pursuit. And again, this is the first struggle, I would say a real struggle that I've had as a kicker. And I'm just enjoying the pursuit of it. I'm enjoying the process, and I'm going through it. I'm making the most of it. And any opportunity that comes my way, I'm going to try and give it my all and do the best I can.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite quotes is pressure makes diamonds, right? And it's like, man, the stakes are high and things might be a little uncertain, but if you can stay focused and just withstand the storm, like all the things that are going on around you, all the uncertainty, the coronavirus messing up the season, you're currently signed with the Redblacks, but they correct me if I'm wrong, they have a kicker. So so things are definitely, challenging times, but it's like, if you can withstand the storm and stay strong and laser focused through that, like that's what's going to really help you shine and come out on top through all of this.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
All right. So, we kind of tried to cherry pick some of the things that, those guys, Maver, Renee, and John Ryan were doing that led to them being successful. When you look back on your career and where you're at now, like, what are the things that you think you did well?
Yeah, well, I think number one is that that relentless pursuit of trying to get better and trying to better yourself every time you walk in the building. Um, Again, something that I spoke about earlier is how hard I was on myself and still am. That even if I had a game where like for example, that Carleton game where I set the record, I hit 7 field goals. I went 7 for 7. I made a tackle on kickoff. For me, when I play that game back, I remember that punt that I messed up coming out of our own end. It was a cross-field punt from left hash to right, and I hit off the right side of my foot, and it maybe went 20, 25 yards and set them up a good field position. So for me, again, maybe that's a bad thing that I can't get the bad kicks out of my head, but that's something that I've never forgot, and it's just that pursuit to always better that one kick maybe I messed up, maybe two. And I never be satisfied with where I'm at. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to better myself, get stronger, get more consistent, more flexible, whatever it may be. Um, I'm always trying to pursue to get better and just keep improving. I think that's something that I have been proud of in my career from grade 9 till now. I think every year that I've stepped on the field, I was better than the year before. I felt I was stronger. I was more in tune with what I was doing. Mentally, I felt better. I felt stronger. The game felt slower. I think every year I played, I improved every year, and I think that's something I do pride myself on.
No, that's what really more can you ask for as an athlete, right? Like it's about progress, not necessarily perfection. Like day in, day out, are you getting a little bit better? Season to season, are you getting better? Like as long as that line is trending in the right direction, like just keep working, just keep working.
Yep.
Okay, so we mentioned it a little a second ago, but we're in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic that's completely uncharted territories for the world, but for athletes as well, right? Like this is the first time that I think, other than a lockout or a war, that that sports have been suspended. So, what are the things that you're doing right now to come out of all of this on top, if there's nothing that you haven't said already? And then what would your advice be for any like high school or university level athletes right now that are kind of going through this?
Yeah. So for myself, I'm still trying to train. Now I'm just doing it at home. I have some light dumbbells and some bands, and I'm sticking to the program that you've given me, you've provided me. I'm just trying to do the most to not lose all the progress we have made. We've made a lot of progress, and um, just keep working. Don't let this affect you mentally. It's completely out of our control. It's nothing we can do about it. It's shitty for every athlete, every person out there. This is a terrible situation that's going on. But the important thing is to, I guess, keep looking forward, keep pushing forward, keep trying to better yourself. And I guess that would kind of be my advice for the younger guys is, and goes for anything in life, not just for a situation like this, is control what you can control. At the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. So anything that's out of your control, there's no need to worry, stress, or make excuses about it. You just gotta keep pushing forward and roll with the punches. This is funny. I guess it's like a meme I've seen, but it's really real and true to me. It's something like any problem or situation in life, just ask yourself one question: can you do anything about it? If the answer is no, then there's no reason to worry or stress about it because you have no control. There's nothing you can do. Let it be and do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is yes, you can do something about it, then there's no need to worry. You can do something about it and do that thing to work towards that. So that's it. I mean, to always look forward, always keep working. Whatever happens, happens. If it's out of your control, let it be and do what you can to better yourself and to come out of it on top.
100%, man. And it's like, you know what, like for athletes out there, and especially the younger ones, it's like, man, this is a level playing field, right? Like everyone's in the same boat. So, if you can be the one that sees the opportunity within the adversity, man, you can come out this on top, right? Because there's a lot of guys out there or girls that are just saying, woe is me right now. Oh, this coronavirus, I can't go to the gym. I can't train. I may as well, play Xbox or PS4 and eat shitty food and sit on my ass. It's like, man, if maybe you aren't the most talented, and maybe you weren't going to be the most recruited player going into this season, it's like, well, those other people right now, they might be letting off the gas. Now is the time for you to stomp on that thing and really make some progress, so that when we do resume back to sports, you're just a completely different version of yourself when you step on the field or the court or whatever sport you play. So that's
exactly it. And I think, I mean this in the best way possible, but there's no better time for something like this to happen for athletes, in the sense that there's so many resources out there now. Like, I mean, doing a video call like this with trainers, there's so many home workouts you can do now. There's really no excuse to not better yourself at a time like this, because again, it goes back to, if you really love what you're doing and really love your craft and are really focused on bettering yourself, you have all the time in the world right now to do that. And there's all the resources in the world for you out there. If you want to do it and you want to go look for it, it's there for you.
Yeah, man. Find solutions, not excuses, right? Like,
that's exactly it.
You know, you, for instance, like, I know because I'm the one doing your programming right now, but it's like, man, you've got a couple of dumbbells, some bands, and a bench. Like, so many people with just that equipment are going, oh, I can't do anything right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I've got limited equipment, blah, 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 whatever kind of excuses they're making. It's like, day one, this stuff, we got shut down. We chatted. Okay, Gabe, what equipment do you have? Awesome. All right, we're going to build you an entire training program based around that. So it's like, you know what, like, go out there and, like you said, access the resources that are available to you and find a solution to the problem instead of just focusing on the problem. Like, you need to be
exactly.
You need to, like, find solutions, not excuses. So that's I think that's really great advice for all the people that are out there that might be listening, looking for some answers. Anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think this has been great. I think, again, I think the biggest takeaways are, find what you really love, go for it. Whatever you do really love, if it is football, if it is sports, if whatever it may be, give your all into it, do everything you can, and learn to control what you can control. Don't worry about anything that's out of your control, and have that relentless pursuit to get better and to be excellent, to be the best you can be. Yeah, and man, besides that, I mean, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Oh, dude, no, thank you for being on here. And I think you embody all those things that you just said there. Like I said, I've known you for a long time. I've got to see you work as a teammate, as your coach for the last few years. Like, you know, you're never content with where you're at, and you're always striving for more. And I think that's why you'll be successful in sports and in life, because you're never complacent. You're never satisfied. You're always looking for more. And that's one thing I really respect about you. Actually, before we go, why don't you talk a little bit about what you and your brother are doing? You guys have your academy going on.
So me and Daniel have the Canada Kicking Academy, where we train kickers at all levels, all ages. And now we were excited this last week to launch some online coaching, which I know it's a little tough in the circumstances of what's going on, because in a lot of areas, parks are closed and fields are closed. So it is tough to get out, but anyone who can get out can send us some film, some online coaching, and we'll either set up a video call just like you and I are doing right now, or send them a message back with coaching. And again, it just gives kids the opportunity to still get better at a time like this. And again, we know how tough this is for everyone. So we just wanted to offer a little bit of help for especially some younger guys that maybe need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of a push, whatever it may be. So we're offering the online coaching, and we're excited for what can come out of this. I hope we can, even if we reach out to one kid, that's what matters to us. That's the best thing about coaching, right? Is seeing the impact you can have on someone that maybe they wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for you. But I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it matters about the volume of like how many people you help, man, because it's like, if it's just one kid or if it's 5 kids or whatever, it's like the kids that are actually going to come through and actually do the work, those are the kids you want to help, because they're the ones that are like, man, it's so rewarding to watch them work towards what they want, whether it's I get to see that with the Athletes Garage every day, and that's my favorite thing, whether it's, some of the middle school like aged athletes that we have that are young and they're still striving, or the high school kids, or you guys at the pro level. It's like, man, just to be able to have that like front row ticket to watch people just so committed to what they're doing, it's amazing. And it's why I love what I get to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, we have one kicker who's in grade 8 from Niagara, and he messaged us saying, hey guys, like, I love this idea, although I don't have a field to go kick at. What can I do? So now my brother and I are trying to put together some maybe home workouts to do. Maybe we can get him on like a Zoom call and do a workout with him at home and kind of show him how he can do it, even if he has no equipment, has
Yeah.
nothing at home.
Well, and
To
it's
stay
like,
fit, keep working. And I love that he's the one reaching out saying, hey, this is what I have. This is what I can't do. What can I do?
yeah, I
And
know.
he's only in grade 8. So it's really awesome to see and exciting to see for these young guys.
Guaranteed in 5 years, we'll see that kid kicking bombs, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Because
so.
you know what, like most people don't have that mentality, and it's like, yo, if you don't have a kicking net or whatever, like go tie a bed sheet to a tree and a post and
Yep.
kick it into
Yep.
there. Like, you know what I mean? Get creative, figure it out, but like don't stop your pursuit of your grand goals or whatever you're trying to achieve in life because there's some virus thing that's shutting everything down. Like, just figure it
Exactly.
out, man. Keep moving forward.
Exactly. And I think that exact thing that you just said is especially true for us CFL players right now, because we have no idea, where it's going, when the season's starting, if it's going to start. So for us, all we can do is be ready. If they say, hey, you got to come in next week, we got to be ready to go in next week. If that date never comes, then it never comes. But all we can do is stay ready and stay focused on being ready whenever that time does come.
Nice. All right, man. Well, hang tight on here. I'm gonna end the call here, and then we'll chat for a bit. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share your
Awesome.
wisdom.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
All right, buddy.